Hello everyone, thank you for viewing this presentation. The aim of it is just to provide clarity around the school assessed grades this year, how we intend to generate them and how we intend to ensure that students of Penistone Grammar School are given every opportunity to evidence the best grade that they can. So how we've arrived at our strategy is through a consultation process with all teachers across all departments, who have looked really carefully at what assessment pieces could be used to generate a school assessed grade. Collectively then we've reviewed those responses and we have designed a common approach so that you can have absolute confidence as students and parents that how we generate the grade in one department is the same as another department, and we've absolutely got clarity on that now, and we'll share the details later in this presentation. One thing that's important to note early in this presentation is that the grade that is awarded is one that has to be evidenced by a student. So previously, obviously, we've shared data home where we share a currently working at grade and we share a prediction. This isn't a prediction, so you can't look at your predicted grades and think, well, they're the grades that I'll get. We have to have evidence of the grade that you get. But what we feel is we've got a process here that allows you to have every chance of success. One of the things that we will provide clarity on is after Easter and the first week back, we will share with you details of the assessments that you will have in each and every subject, so you know exactly what topic area to focus on your revision. We'll be using the exam board released materials, so that's why there's a slight delay in getting this to you, because they haven't been released yet. We feel that gives you best chance of success. Obviously we'll review those documents when they are released, but we know that the exam boards are saying they have quality assured those assessments, they're happy with them, they've strongly suggested schools use them as part of this process and would actually ask why they hadn't if they haven't. We also believe that they'll be releasing those so that you can see them, so that you can see exactly what those assessments look like. So as a school, we feel, why wouldn't we give you that opportunity when we know other schools will be? So we think that's the best way forward to give you the best chance of success. Everything we are doing is to give you every opportunity to secure the best grade that you can do and also look after your well-being. We know that it will be a stressful time. It always is. At this time of year, building up to those GCSE exams, it always is. Those exams have been cancelled. We're supporting you with assessments, but please don't think they are high stakes, one-off pieces of work. This forms part of the picture and we will support you every step of the way. So where are we now? We feel that we're at a point where we are confident we can ensure that the grades we award are both ethical and moral. We are at a point where we can award the students the grade they have evidenced and deserve. And I think that's really important, that we understand that this is slightly different from the process last year, which allowed schools to add in an element of prediction if the pandemic hadn't have occurred. This year the guidance is quite clear that students need to evidence the grade that we are awarding, and in this presentation I'll share with you the pieces of evidence that may be used to come to this conclusion. And we also wanted equity in the process across school. So fundamentally it's about ensuring our school assessed grades are evidence-based and students have the best opportunity to show us what they are capable of. So this slide gives you all the detail really in terms of what we will use, and we are viewing it as the work that's sort of been and gone, if you like, where students have little control over but may have evidenced really good results in, and the work that's still yet to come. So in blue on the left hand side of this slide, you can see that we've got two ways that students can evidence their grades. One is through milestone and in-class assessment, and the other is through practice exams. Now for year 11 there's been relatively limited opportunity due to the pandemic, but again that won't hinder our students. The only thing it will do is potentially give them a really solid positive base to allow them to evidence their grade, but no student will be disadvantaged because they haven't sat a practice exam. From the green quadrants, you can see that we've got work to come, and that's through in-class assessments and also a final formal assessment in every subject. And in the next slides, I'll talk more about each and every one of those. So the first evidence base that could be used to generate the grade or part of the grade is the milestones or in-class assessments. So these are assessments that students in Year 11 and Year 13 have sat that have used exam board questions and have been marked against exam board criteria. So it isn't a small piece of home learning, for example. It should be a relatively significant piece of work that assesses students' knowledge in a particular area. And also the NEA or the coursework that has been completed up to Easter can be considered in this part. I'll talk more about the actual grading process later on, but in essence, we want departments to use at least 3 pieces of assessed work from this area and then generate a average grade that will then be put forward to be considered. When looking at these, the grade boundaries that should have been used will have been in line with previous national grade boundaries. So the next piece of evidence that can be used is from practice exams, and these have obviously taken again place before Easter, potentially through Year 10 or Year 11 or Year 12 or Year 13. So it's any practice exam that's been sat before Easter 2021. And these are the ones that have been sat under formal conditions, most likely in the sports hall, but potentially classrooms as well, and uses exam board questions and mark schemes. The grade boundaries used must be consistent across the department for this piece of work and in line with previous national boundaries. So one of the things that we feel is really positive about this is that students still have a real opportunity to impact the GCSE or A-level grade that they get at the end of this, because everything they do could be the one that informs their grade. So if the best 2 areas are from in-class assessments post-Easter and their final formal assessment post-Easter, then that's the grade that they will get. So it's really important that students come back after Easter really focused and positive, because it's such a great opportunity for them. So for the in-class assessments, we are asking each department to set an assessment with students using past paper questions marked against exam board criteria. We're aware that the exam boards are releasing resources. Ideally, they're the ones we'll use, but our staff will look carefully at those and we'll judge whether they're the ones that will ensure our students have the best opportunity. So what we do know is that these in-class assessments will be exam board materials and marked against exam board mark schemes, and will also then be graded against department agreed boundaries that are in line with national grade boundaries. We want a maximum of 3 assessments per department, ideally one a fortnight. We feel it's important that balances the workload for everybody. We're aware that students are going from one lesson to the next thinking, is it another assessment? So we will quickly provide clarity by the end of the first week back after Easter around when these assessments will take place and what the assessment focus is, so that students can prepare effectively for that. And then the final piece of assessment that we will use is every student will have the opportunity to sit 1 formal assessment in formal exam conditions per subject. It will only be a 1-hour assessment, and we've looked at this carefully. We believe that that's what the exam board material will be in terms of length of time. We're aware that exam boards are sharing these assessment materials online so students can see them. We feel it's important that we use these at least in this setting, but as I've already said, maybe in the in-class assessments as well. It allows us to evidence that we have been part of the exam board strategy, so that quality assurance from their side, we can say, look, we've used your materials and we think that validates our grades and we're confident in that, obviously, but it just helps with that process. So in terms of this, as I've said, it will be a final formal assessment. It isn't the sole thing that counts towards the grade like it would normally be, or certainly largely be in GCSE and A-level, taking out of the equation any coursework. So it isn't as high stakes. It obviously depends on what picture a student has previous to this. But we feel it's a really good opportunity for our students. So on the next few slides, I'll talk through then the awarding of the teacher assessed grade. And it will be a teacher assessed grade initially, where our teachers look at the evidence that they have from each and every student that they teach. And then at some point, and I'll explain a bit further about why I'm saying this, it will be a school assessed grade. So the grade that a student will be awarded will be the highest one evidenced across 2 of the 4 assessment areas. If they don't match up exactly, and I'll talk through some working examples shortly, then the average of the 2 highest grades is to be awarded. If this generates a half grade, then the teacher will look at all of the evidence in front of them to carefully consider which grade is representative of the student. In terms of that process, that ends the teacher assessed element. And as a school, we then own those grades, and we will look at a quality assurance process at middle leader level. So the marking of the most recent assessments, any previous assessments has been quality assured. And then we will look at whole school level to see, do these grades reflect what we've been telling students across the 2 years that we think they were working at? Does it represent performance in that subject area? If it doesn't, why not? If it's because we've got very clear evidence to support the fact that this group of students have outperformed previous ones, then that's absolutely fine. We just need to be confident in everything that we do. And at that point, we're saying it becomes our school assessed grade, and that's what we will put forward, a school assessed grade. So this is an example of how we will grade, or how we will generate the teacher assessed and the school assessed grade. So if you look at this student here, their best 2 grades are in the top left section, the milestone and InClass assessments, where they've got a grade 5, and also then their post-Easter evidence of InClass assessments of a grade 5. As a school, we are suggesting that our starting point should include at least 1 piece of evidence from post-Easter. I'll explain a little bit more about that later on. But in this case, it's quite simple. The best grade evidence across 2 different areas is a 5, and therefore the student will be awarded a grade 5 by the school. In example 2, we can see that the 2 best pieces of evidence are a grade 8 from the pre-Easter evidence milestone and in-class assessments, or the pre-Easter evidence of practice exams. And then the best grade from the most recent assessment is the final formal assessments of a grade 6. So this will be awarded as a grade 7 as the average between the 8 and the 6. We will look at this carefully. Teachers within the school will carefully consider whether that is the fair and right grade, but that will be our starting point in terms of using at least 1 piece of evidence from the most recent piece of work. So in our final example, we can see it's not quite as clear cut as generating a whole grade as an average. We've got a grade 9 from the practice exams, and the best grade 8 from the post-Easter evidence in the in-class assessments. Obviously a grade 8.5 doesn't exist, so in this scenario, teachers of the student will carefully consider all of the evidence and then award the grade that is the right one for this student, which in this scenario would most likely be a grade 8 or a 9. As mentioned previously, we'd like to use 1 piece of evidence from post-Easter for our Year 11 and Year 13 students. This is a general approach. There will be scenarios where we may have to look at individuals and use both pieces of evidence from pre-Easter. The reason that we want this as a general basis is that we feel that students will have then opportunity to impact on their grades. So in essence, a student could really positively impact on their GCSE or A-level grade from when they return after Easter until Spring Bank, which is a really strong position for all our students. The other reason is Ofqual suggests that the more recent evidence is likely to be more representative of student performance. Therefore, we feel it's important that our starting point is that. But as I've said, there may be exceptions and there will be exceptions to this. So it isn't a black and white rule, it's our starting point. So I won't read out the bullet points on here. I think they're quite clear, but they will help you just to review our approach. Some things that I will draw your attention to, just from here on in, we won't share grades with new assessed pieces of work. The reason for that is that we will still need to know from the exam boards the grade boundaries that are being used with those assessment materials. We feel it's important that we consider these, that we look carefully at our in-school pieces of work, but we will share with you the raw marks and the percentages so you get an idea of where you are with those pieces of work. As I've already said, you can expect to have in-class assessments of 1 per fortnight, and we will provide clarity around what those are in terms of the topics, and your teachers will also share with you most likely when they will be as well. There aren't any tricks that we'll be playing or dropping an assessment on you without allowing you to prepare for it. That's not what this is about. So there'll be absolute clarity around when the assessments are and what the topics will be on. A reminder that there'll be a one-off final assessment that will be completed under formal exam conditions. As a school, we feel that's important. Some of our students last year felt that they would have valued that opportunity in an exam to evidence what they had learned. And that is something that we've taken on board with this approach. Some students thrive under exam conditions, some students don't. So we feel that with our approach, we've covered all bases really. So we still want to offer this opportunity, but in a very scaled back approach. We will have to keep work submitted from here on in. You'll be able to see it, it'll be shared with you in terms of that feedback on raw marks and percentages, but we have to be able to evidence anything that we've graded from Easter onwards. So we will retain those assessments in the short term. So in terms of next steps, on Thursday the 25th of March, we will have an assembly with Year 13 and Year 11. So in that you will be able to see largely this presentation and our plan, and then we'll also write home to your parents and to yourselves as well to include the presentation and a letter giving you the overview. Just a reminder that there won't be clarity around each and every assessment focus. We're still waiting on the exam board material. That said, I know some of you will want to get cracking over Easter and revising. I have asked your teachers to give you some direction around topic areas that they will definitely want you to look at. So hopefully you will have had that steer. If you haven't had that steer, I wouldn't recommend you revising everything from your subject areas. My view is focusing on the subjects that have given you that very clear direction. I am absolutely confident we will give you enough time to prepare for each and every assessment when you return after Easter. I'm confident that we will make it a very fair process, but equally give you every opportunity by sharing with you the focus of those assessments so that it releases that pressure and that high stakes element. So just to reiterate, I would only suggest you focus your revision where you've been given a direction from your teachers at this stage over Easter. After we return on Tuesday the 13th of April, all departments will meet. They will finalise the areas that you will be assessed on, and we will share that with you in written form by Friday the 16th of April. So you will have absolute clarity on what those assessments look like. You may do an assessment in that first week back, but your teachers will have shared details with you to focus in on over Easter. If they haven't, then please obviously speak with myself. In terms of then a final formal assessment window, where you will have the opportunity to sit one formal assessment in exam style settings, that will be between Thursday the 20th of May and Friday the 28th of May. But just to reiterate, this isn't about trying to apply pressure. This is about giving everybody every opportunity to evidence what they are capable of. Some students flourish in exam settings, so we need to give them the opportunity. Some of you flourish on that longer assessment pieces like your coursework, that will be taken account of. So we feel that in this model, all of you have an opportunity to shine in all the different scenarios. Okay. Final thing, I'm sure there'll be questions that you might have regarding the leaving date. We're not in a position to confirm that yet. What we do know is we have to submit your grades to the exam boards by Friday the 18th of June. It may be that we ask you to keep coming in until that point. It may be that we are guided by government to keep you beyond that point. Unfortunately, that decision is slightly out of our hands at the moment. As soon as we have further details, we will of course let you know. Thank you very much for listening to this presentation. Please do speak to any members of staff within the school. In terms of main points of contact for post 16, it would be Mr. Stevens. For year 11, it would be Mr. Gibbons. But obviously, feel free to contact Mr. Squires as well for year 11. Any members of the post 16 team that work alongside Mr. Stevens. I hope it's been useful. I hope it answers the vast majority of your questions, but please do contact us if there is anything else. I hope you have a lovely Easter, and please do make some time for yourselves to relax and unwind as well. Thank you.